So my story takes place about 5 months ago. I worked at Pizza Hut as a delivery driver. I was getting ready to leave one night when my boss, who we'll call Derek, tells me that I needed to make one last big delivery. 7 boxes, 3 sodas, and 2 orders of hot wings. I asked him the address, and it was an hour drive from where I live. I got furious, but I kept it in. It wasn't his fault. He was just doing his job. I wait about 10 minutes for the order to be cooked and packed. I lift off at about 11 p.m. Where I was supposed to deliver the pizza to is a forest-like area. I only passed about 3 houses as I was driving there. As I pulled up to the house, I noticed that it's completely dark. It's a run-down, beat-up old house. So I got out as much as the order as I could, and I made my way up to the front door. I got chills down my back. It was way too quiet, dark, and cold. Your basic stereotypes out of the horror movies. As I get to the front door and knocked, no one answered. I knocked for a second time, and no one answered. I checked the address to see if I was at the right place, and I knock again for a 3rd time, a bit louder. I look around, and all of a sudden, to my surprise, someone answers the door. It's a little boy. He looks to be about 9 or 10. He looked as though he never slept a day in his life. He had large bags under his eyes. He's wearing only tore-up pants, and his hair was a mess. He had popped open eyes. He spoke to me in a scratchy voice. "Is that the pizza?" I said, yeah. So he grabs it out of my hands, and as he turns around, I see these massive bloody scars running across his back. An elderly woman then stepped into view. She was wearing a gray cloak, and she says, "You can get the rest out of your car and put it in the backyard." I asked, "Is your son okay?" She just repeated herself and then shut the door. Now I'm an idiot and I fall for this trap. I get the rest of the pizzas, and as I'm walking into the backyard, I literally turn completely pale. I almost pass out after what I see. There was 8 hooded figures surrounding a hole. 2 were holding shovels, and another 2 were holding hatchets. I drop everything and run to the car. I get in the car, start it up, and then I got the fuck out of there. As I'm speeding down the road, I see the headlights of a truck coming out of nowhere and speeding up to me. I drive faster. The whole time I'm thinking, I'm dead, I'm fucking dead. I thought it was the end, but then I remembered, I'm close to the main road. I'm hoping they don't catch me, and when I get to the main road, the truck slows down, and the headlights fade away. I'm trying to keep my shit together before I have a heart attack. I call my boss telling him what happened. He calls the cops right away. I arrive back at Pizza Hut, and I get questioned about the incident. The next day they gave me a report on what happened. They discovered the location to be vacant, totally empty, except for one thing. They discovered a hole with severed body parts in it. No one was ever caught, and this traumatized me for months to say the least. I took 2 months off of work. My boss Derek checked on me almost every day to see how I was doing, along with some of my coworkers. I was at the point where I was able to come back into work. Sharing this story to strangers made me kinda nervous, but when I came across Unit 522, I got the courage to share my story, and I would like to thank him for sharing if he does. And to all those listening to this, I thank you as well. This happened when I was 13. Me and my friends were into airsoft at the time. We would make regular trips to a forest nearby. There was 4 of us, me, Ron, Bert, and Gary. I should note that we had to walk 15 minutes into the forest to get to our airsofting place, so we split into 2 teams and started to play. Bert noticed a man nearby in the middle of our game. He pointed him out to me, and I thought he looked kinda suspicious, since we usually see people out here with their dogs, but he didn't have one. He was talking into his phone, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. I yelled, "Hey, do you need any help?" He immediately jumped behind a tree. I should also note that we were wearing camouflage pants and jackets, and I was about 10 meters away from Bert, and he hadn't noticed me yet. We thought he had left since we saw him running away, so we continued with our game. 20 minutes after, Gary and Ron ran to us and told us that they had seen a person talking on his phone, ducking behind trees. That's when we told them what we saw. Ron lived nearby, so he said that we should get the fuck out of here and go back to his place. We all agreed. We packed up and started to head out. We were walking at this point. I heard the guy talking from behind us. I looked back, and he was 10 meters away from us. We immediately started to run away. As Gary looked back, he saw the man running after us. We got to a path that split the forest. We ran down to the second part of the forest. We were all out of breath. We stopped for a second. I looked back to the way we came from, and there was no sign of the man. Then I noticed that there was a small hill right next to us. I told the others to go ahead, and I would lay on top of the hill and see if the guy was still following us. I took out my sniper rifle, and I began to scope my surroundings, and that's when I saw him. This was the first time I got a good look at his face. He looked like a middle-aged man with messy black hair. Other than that, he looked like a normal person. That's when I realized he was looking right back at me. He had the creepiest smile I had ever seen, and I still have nightmares of it. And then I did something that I'm not proud of. I shot him in the nose. It was a small pellet. It would only hurt him, nothing serious. Then I started to run towards my friends. I caught up with them on the main road. We never called the police, nor did we tell our parents. Now that I think about it, we did have realistic-looking weapons, so he might have been calling the cops. I don't know though, and I don't think I ever will. I'm very familiar with the whereabouts of Mexico. Ever since I was a baby, my family has been going to Mexico for special gatherings and other festive occasions. Up to this point, I've been to Mexico 7 times. From visiting Cabo San Lucas when I was a toddler to recently going to Cancun to visit my mom's cousin. All of these moments were exciting and new to me every time. But as much as I love Mexico, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. There is constant violence between cartels, corrupted police, and government scandals being picked off left and right. I've always had a great fear of the drug cartels, especially Los Zetas. I would always hear stories of beheadings and other disgusting stuff that happened when the cartels would constantly do this to make people fear them. From my experiences, the safest way to go to Mexico is always by airplane. But when I was younger, we would go there by road, from Fresno to wherever the destination was. It was December of 2006. My dad had been planning a family trip for us to go to his home state of Colima to spend most of the whole month there with his mom and dad. Colima is a small state on the central west coast of Mexico. It's probably one of the quietest and safest states in the country you'll visit. My parents said that we would be leaving and going by car. Back then I was thrilled since I was an eager little boy. Now, I think differently. We left from California and made our way to the border city of Nogales, across from Arizona. Ever since we crossed the border, Mom and Dad would always be scoping the roads looking for any sketchy thugs. I was puzzled by this within my tiny child mentality. But this is where shit hits the fan. It had been 4 days of us driving on Federal Highway 15, and we were in the desert in the state of Sinaloa. This highway has a notorious rep for having many muggings and disappearances. That area was controlled by the infamous Sinaloa Federation cartel, and for those of you who don't know, that is the drug cartel of El Chapo Guzman. I've heard many terrifying stories of his cartel's killings that scared me as a child. The hangings, the muggings, the beheadings. Don't even get me started on that. We were driving our SUV really fast on this lonely stretch of road, with 2 other cars of my dad's closest relatives and friends to give us company. While we were on this road, our speed was 95 miles per hour because on the highways, cartel thugs or members would be on the side of the highway, and they would be waiting for the slowest car on the road, and they would either steal everything the driver had or take their cars and abandon them in the desert. And if you're wondering about the cops, well, here's a little answer for that. The police in Mexico are almost non-existent on lonely highways such as these, and they almost would never consider looking for us if we had disappeared. Not to mention they get bribed by the cartels. That's how crooked cops are there. So my dad is driving fast. I start to feel nauseous by the speed that we were driving. We saw a truck along the highway up ahead. It was a gray Honda Ridgeline with tinted windows, just standing there in the desert. My mom was becoming worried. As we passed it, we saw a group of about 6 men inside the truck. We braced ourselves for the worst, and then I saw the silhouette of an assault rifle being held by one of the men. We automatically knew it was a cartel truck. My mom screamed at my dad to floor it faster as the truck sped down the highway and gained on us. She told me to get my baby brother and duck under the car windows. I cried hysterically as the car's engine rung in my ears as my dad sped along. I looked up and saw that the truck was right behind us. I was panicking, thinking that the truck was going to ram us head on. The truck got closer before finally giving up and slowed down as we left it behind in the desert. We finally reached the state of Jalisco, where we found a small quiet town by the coast. We stayed at a safe inn. I hugged my mom crying as she kissed me and said that the truck was gone and that there was nothing to be afraid of. I stopped crying and I fell asleep. So that's my scary brush-in with the cartel. To those of you who are wishing to travel to Mexico for whatever reason, please go through the air, because you'll avoid the crazy things that happened to me and my family. To those of you who are traveling by road, I hope to God that you make it to your destination safely. And for those of you who never made it, may you rest in peace. Heed my warning, and gracias. Hey guys, Unit 522 here, and I want to thank you very much for watching my video. I would appreciate it very much if you would share, like, and comment. And if you're new to this channel, become one with the Unity by hitting the subscribe button. If you have a scary story or experience that you want featured on this channel, you can always send it to my email or post it on the Free Horror Stories subreddit. The links for those can be found in the description below. If you would like to help out this channel even more, consider a PayPal donation. And for more updates, be sure to follow me on Twitter. There's nothing wrong with a little darkness in your life, as long as you never forget, there's always a reason to be afraid.